which I'm going to try to put proper editing into. And you will hear me stutter occasionally because, well, this probably all going to be recorded in one massive recording. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, before we get into complaining about meta weapons, first things first, we have to discuss what meta means. Meta stands for most effective tactics available, basically meaning it's the most overpowered thing available. And the problem with these weapons is that they're just too good compared to the others. And most of them have a way lower skill ceiling than the rest. I mean, take a good look at most of the current meta weapons other than shields, which shields are an interesting topic that I'll probably have in our own section in this video. So other than shields, tell me all the meta weapons. We have your disc launchers, your saw blades, your harpoon launchers, the occasional person complaining about fire axes, which is reasonable. We have plenty of players complaining about these meta weapons. But what makes them meta? Take a good look at disc launchers. They buffed them in an update recently, which that buff was to change them from 750 all the way to 1000. Now you might think 250 damage is not really enough to affect anything, right? Well, that turns a weapon that usually could 7-shot you into one that could 5-shot you. Also, not to mention that they didn't fix the trashy hitbox in this update, that they added this huge damage buff. They only buffed them because of their littler cousin saw blades, which was performing 10 times better than them at that current time. Saw blades, the thing that makes them overpowered, used to be their trashy hitbox. Although that is fixed now, their damage stat is still a little too much and probably needs to be nerfed down to 500. These things have been meta since their release, so I wouldn't be surprised if a nerf came their way real soon. Next up, we have the one and only harpoon launcher. This strikes fear into any player's heart. And by any player, I mean every player. Shields? Dead. Tool bats? Dead. Using sniper to counter the harpoons? Dead. No matter what you have in mind for the harpoon gun, they can only really be taken out by an ambush where they're not suspecting you. And since harpoon gun players usually use the thing as a sniper, since it essentially works as one, well, they're going to be scouting you out and finding you out rather quickly if you're trying to ambush them. Not to mention the fact that you're essentially only paying 150 stuffing if you reuse the gun itself for an arrow that does the same amount of damage as a crossbow and an arrow, but it pulls the enemies towards you. Now that might sound like it's objectively worse, but it makes them lose control of their character for that short time in which you can shoot another harpoon at them. Or you could just simply jump above them, shoot a harpoon at them, and watch them go flying up into the air, which you can quickly follow up with butchos or another harpoon shot. Now that I've explained to you the current meta weapons, other than shields, what makes them overpowered? You're curious. I know that's kind of gonna be like the title of the freaking video, so I know you're curious. What makes these weapons overpowered? It's simply bad game design. Weapons that can ricochet and have potential for huge numbers of damage, specifically saw blades and harpoon guns? Harpoon guns can't ricochet. Anyways, disc launchers and saw blades should have a higher skill ceiling with higher reward, but they should still have to be somewhat skillful. I mean, a nerf that many people have proposed is a damage nerf to saw blades. Why? Because the only reason that they buffed disc launchers in the first place was because saw blades was just the cooler Daniel of the two ricocheting weapons. And it really didn't have much competition with the disc launcher itself, simply because it just did more damage more consistently. It wasn't even really about the damage, they did the same amount, but due to its consistency in doing damage, and its bogus hitbox, which was debatable, like how are some of these saw blades hitting. Anyways, let's get back to it. So, what makes these weapons overpowered? It's simply just a bad game design standpoint. And I know I've already said this, but, well, let's be honest. It's just bad game design. There is not really anything else about it. All Yeeps weapons should have a relatively the same skill ceiling than the other weapons. You see, I'm fine with weapons having varying skill ceilings. And if some weapons are considered worse than others, it's probably just because you're not good enough at those weapons in order to use them correctly. But here's the thing, is that with harpoon guns, due to their horrible hitbox and the fact that it almost acts like a heat-seeking missile sometimes, with that horrible hitbox, makes it insanely difficult to dodge them, meaning that it has a low skill ceiling for maximum reward. Does that seem fair to you? Weapons that should have a crap ton of reward should be kept in the category of very high skilled. And there is one other weird thing or example that I'd like to show here for this case. Tanks and crossbow arrows. Now when you shoot an arrow out of a tank, it does the same 750 damage as putting it in a crossbow. But you can rapid fire tanks, and you have to actually just aim with the crossbow. And you have to be consistent with your aim with the crossbow instead of just having a little robot do it for you. And with tanks, you can essentially spray people down because it works as a minigun in its own sort of fashion. And I don't really know how to explain this, but that feels unfair. I mean, a key example here is that when you're using a tank, you can have a shield in your offhand, it won't matter, you're not reloading anything. But when you're using a crossbow and arrow, you have to have 2 slots dedicated to that. Not only do you have to have the same amount of slots, I mean, the only thing that's really bad about the tank loadout is the fact that you're taking up 1 extra slot. That is it. And for the extra slot you gain to have a shield just casually by you the entire time, never having to put it down to reload, that is essentially an extra slot on its own. How would you fix these? How would I fix these meta weapons? Well, it's simple. Just nerf them. Nerf them into the ground. I don't want to see these weapons ever again. I mean, I'm fine with harpoon gun piercing through shield. It just has to do less damage. I'm fine with like 300 through 250 damage on the harpoon gun piercing through shields. That is completely fine in my opinion, because it's still spammable and it's still relatively meta, but it's not as bad. My next video though will be covering shields and how shields probably just need a rework and how they don't need an actual nerf. Anyways, without further ado, it's been nice knowing y'all, and I hope you have a great day. Keep on yeeping.